Hello, friends and family. It's day 101, cycle 5, day 16. I'm Jen, and today and every day, we talk about my quest to crush aggressive diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, DLBCL, stage 4, and we're using the R-EPOCH immunotherapy chemotherapy cocktail to crush non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Thank you so much for joining me on the journey today. So let's get into it. First, my daily thought. We'll start with a quote. Don't count the days. Make the days count. Muhammad Ali. So it's a short one. I was actually going to use this one yesterday, but then I started laughing at myself because it said don't count the days, and I was literally counting the days 1 through 100. I'm like, I can't use this quote today. But I saved it for today. I saved it for today instead of yesterday. And it's really the same message we had yesterday, right? Every day counts. We need to make sure that we pull, grasp, get the most out of every day. Find the joy, live the day. Because tomorrow is not guaranteed ever. No matter what's going on, right? But more so for some people than others. So stepping backwards, as I promised, I'm going to put out another plea to you to please consider being an organ donor. It's such a gift, and it allows the tragedy of your death to become a gift and provide hope for someone else. So please consider it. I think, I am certainly an organ donor. I was thinking about showing you my driver's license with everything blurred out, but I'm like, well, that's just silly. But I am an organ donor. Now, I don't know if they'll take my organs having had cancer 3 times. I know they won't take it if you have active cancer, but I'm not even sure, given my medical history now, if they would want my organs. But for now, I'm listed as an organ donor. In worst case, maybe I get donated to science at some point in the way future. Nothing too soon. And they can try and figure out why I keep getting cancers in different ways, right? That might be useful, even if I can't donate and help somebody else. Maybe I'll help lots of people if they can figure it out with this silly body of mine. In any case, please consider being an organ donor. And once you make your decision, please discuss it with your family so they know how you feel. Don't just go fill out the form and be done. Let your family know your feelings as well so they can support you. All right. So, how am I? I'd say I'm about the same, but a bit better. I feel a bit better on power. I was able to accomplish a lot today, and I didn't totally deflate. I don't know how else to articulate that. That seems ridiculous. I am exhausted from the Seder prep and the hosting. So I did sleep in. I don't remember exactly what time I got out of bed, but it was later. Excuse me. And then I basically got up and was just up and going since then. Straightening, getting things ready, and all that kind of stuff. And then the Seder itself, my mom had prepared all the food and brought it, but it was cold from the fridge. So I had to transfer it and get it into the oven. We used the Instapot. So the oven and the Instapot were going while we were sitting outside. Nobody had to monitor them. And then, just bringing the courses out. And of course, or maybe not, of course, you guys might not know this. We've been incredibly cautious as far as folks in the house. It's really just my immediate family, the 4 of us. And once a week or during my treatment, sometimes not sometimes, every time the visiting nurse comes in to change the bags or change the dressing, but they're very cautious. They've been treated and so forth and so on. So otherwise, we haven't let anyone come through the house in over a year. And so therefore, there was no one to offload that effort to. My mom couldn't come in and do her own, prep the stuff in the oven or the Instapot herself or bring it outside. So I was doing all that running all day. So I think I held it pretty well. I had a brief little rest a little while ago before I came up to record with you guys because I was just pretty wiped. I also had to put all the leftovers away and all that kind of stuff. So it's been an effort. But overall, I think I'm holding up pretty well considering how exhausted I've been all week. Now, my plan right now, and we'll talk about that in my to-do and to-do list, is that tomorrow I'm really just going to rest. And then if I can get other stuff done, I'll try to do that. So that's where I am right now. All right, so angel delivery. I mean, we could argue that all the Seder stuff was angel delivery, and I'll say thank you about that. But for this weekend, my angel delivery focus is on a very special young man. So I have a story to tell you, story time during angel delivery. So today is March 27th, 2021, and 3 years ago, on March 27th, 2018, Bill was essentially living in the hospital. My husband. He started living in the hospital on February 21st, I believe. I have to check a calendar, but I think that's right. Of 2018. And essentially the doctors indicated that his heart was not strong enough to be home and he needed to be on a continuous, actually more than one, multiple continuous IV medications to keep his heart beating. And he needed to be observed in the hospital around the clock. And so he could no longer be home. Now, at that point, he'd already been listed for transplant. Listed meaning he was on a waiting list to be transplanted since October of 2017. So in February, actually, I guess in January into early February, they determined that his heart was not strong enough to function on its own. And earlier in the month, just before Valentine's Day, if my recall fits, they put him onto an IV medication, an inotrope, which is basically, it's always described as, let me think about it, like airplane fuel to keep your heart beating. It's not just like gasoline like you get at the gas station for a car. It's airplane fuel. It's like high test. And he started on that medication, and he did not do well on the medication. You know, we came home, they sent us home, but within a few days, he just was not feeling well. And what we determined, we went back to the ER, big deal, We went to the doctor's office and we went to the ER. And at the end of the day, they admitted him into the ICU. And what was determined was that the medication, his heart wasn't functioning well enough to support the medication. And he was skipping too many beats to keep up with that medication. And so he wasn't pumping effectively. Now, he already was not pumping effectively before that, but this was even worse. And so they had to take him off of that medication, but they couldn't not keep him on any medication because the heart wasn't strong enough by itself. So then we started down a path of finding the right medication and combination of medications to keep him healthy enough and alive. So he was in intensive care for several weeks, and then he was downgraded to, well, it doesn't mean anything to you, but to a heart floor, basically, a telehealth floor for folks that have heart issues and or who are waiting for transplant. And so that was our life. And so I was spending many days at the hospital and nights. Sam was a senior in high school that year, and he spent many, many days at the house by himself. But that is what it is. That's kind of part of our history. So on this particular day, on March 27th, he'd already been in the hospital for 5 to 6 weeks. And the way transplant works is you don't really know when it's going to happen, right? It's dependent totally on a matching donor and where you are on the list compared to everybody else in the area. And, we were waiting. But it was 6 weeks and we were still waiting, and it was 6 weeks waiting in the hospital, so that made it like more stressful. And there's some part of us that was like, how long is this wait going to be? And there was other parts of us that were like, in any case, Sam had a hard day. I don't remember why, a particularly hard day. We were talking to him on the phone, and Bill, as always, the best parent, was like, you have to go home. You need to support him. He needs you, he needs you. And so he sent me home that day, and I don't remember exactly. It was probably 3 or 4 o'clock. I left the hospital. I got home, and happened to be a robotics day. Sam was very active in the robotics team, so he was at the warehouse at the meeting. And so I got there and I met him, and he was hugging and cuddling all over me. And then I went into a meeting. I don't remember if Sam was in the meeting or not at the moment, but I went into the meeting, and it might have been 5 o'clock, maybe. And my phone rang, and of course it was on vibrate, but I looked down and it was Bill. I'm like, I can't ignore this call. So I stepped out of the meeting, and I answered the phone, and he said, you have to come back. They think they found my heart. Which was all at once, there was joy and fear. I don't know how else to articulate that. I remember shaking. I was like so overwhelmed with it. So I was just so happy that we were getting this chance, because honestly, 3 years later, today, my husband would not be here without that transplant. Right? He was so sick that he had to be hospitalized 3 years ago. He would not have lasted 3 years without that heart. But at the same time, you know that there's another family that's heartbroken. And of course, we didn't know any details. The donor relationship is totally anonymous at that point. And and then there's fear, right? Because this is not a small thing to take a heart out of a body and put another heart in, right? The doctors, the surgeons, they're all incredibly gifted with a fabulous success rate, but you just have no way of knowing. And so this began our journey, or I guess not began, but it started a new phase of our journey. So I immediately got Sam. I apologized to the meeting and said we had to go. I think I might have explained to some folks, or at least one person, what was going on. Grabbed Sam and we left. And I'm like, okay, you got to go home. You got to pack up your stuff. Let's go. We got to go. My stuff was not even unpacked because I had just come from the hospital. And so I was ready for the most part. But I'm like, well, let's go home. I'll switch out if I had dirty. I don't even remember. Switch out my dirty clothes into new and whatever. And then my oldest son was at college about 70 miles away. And my niece was, she's probably about 90 miles, but she's just past my oldest son. And she'd always said, when you're ready, let me know and I'll get him and I'll bring him up. Because I want to come, So while Sam's packing himself, I'm calling my niece to say, hey, we think this is it. We're not sure, but I need you to go get, my oldest. And she's, I don't remember if I left her a message or if I talked to her. And she's like, well, I'm not home. I took a surprise trip to South Carolina and I can't really help right now. So then we got into, phase 2. We have all these friends and family and all they want to do is help. Who do I know that's kind of in that direction that can bring them this way? Now, my mother-in-law was coming up, obviously. It's her son. And so what ended up happening was that we got a close family friend. Thank you. Still, thank you. to go collect my oldest from college. And bring him to my mother-in-law's house, which was not all the way to the hospital. Still probably another 45 minutes to an hour from the hospital. But she was coming up anyway, and that, that saved her from having to do that extra, hour and a half round, probably 2.25 round trip from her house to go get him. So that was less driving for her. All right, so all this is happening concurrently. And then finally Sam gets his now I've got to drive up to the hospital in rush hour, which stinks here. We're in the Northeast, but neither here nor there. And I can still remember that Sam was a little reticent and quiet in the car as we were driving up. And I was like, what's going on? What's the matter? And he says, well, I'm just sad. Somebody had to die for Dad to get this heart. That how did he articulate it? That's on us, that the person is no longer. And I was, so to which, we're having a conversation while you drive. And I said to him, Sam, I agree with you. And that's very sad, but we didn't have anything to do with that. Whatever that tragedy was, we can't control that. We can only try to take this experience. They've had a horrible tragedy in their family. By accepting this gift and Dad fighting and surviving, that's honoring them. So he thought about that for a while. Now, meanwhile, and I didn't mention this earlier, we had a young cousin die tragically earlier at the end of 2017, I guess that must have been. And there was like a lot of hullabaloo around the whole thing. But in the end, her family was able to donate some of her organs. And I can still remember at the wake that her brothers and her parents told us multiple times, and I don't even know that they realized that they told us multiple times that they were able to donate. Like there was some comfort in her tragic death that she was able to help all of these other people. And so, I reminded Sam of that as well. I'm like, absolutely, I would not wish this on anyone, but their tragedy and their generous gift is going to allow Dad to stay with us, to be here. And, this meant so much to us. So back to my earlier plea, I would implore you to consider organ donation. It really, really makes a large difference. And tomorrow, we did all make it up to the hospital, and it turns out that the transplant was not scheduled until the 28th, the next day at 5 a.m., which there's a whole bunch of reasons, and we can talk about that tomorrow on the 28th. But so the angel delivery, now subsequently after the transplant, we were able to meet our donors' parents. Maybe I'll get some pictures for you tomorrow so you can see when they met us. So they were able to listen to Bill's heart. Bill received our donor's heart and kidney. He needed a double transplant. And, it made a large difference in our life, obviously. And I do believe that his parents still have some comfort of the fact that, that the tragedy of his death did result in many, many lives saved. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. So we'll move on to doctor news. I have no doctor news for myself. My to-do list. We're going to Zoom because I talked a lot about that, didn't I? My to-do list today. I rested. I hydrated. I cleaned. I loaded the dishwasher. I hosted the Seder, which was a fair amount of work, more than I expected. I did hard-boiled eggs last night. Today I washed the lettuce, and I packed up all the leftovers. So these were my accomplishments for today, and to me, they were quite massive. All right, so my to-do, must-do for tomorrow. I must rest. I must hydrate. And I will be scheduling a text to my doctor for Monday morning, which I can do with my Samsung phone, to let him know that I'd like to delay treatment so that there's some lead time. And I assume he'll call me if that's an issue. And if it's not, I'll talk to him on Wednesday. So then my to-do must list. Wrong list. My to-do would love to do list. Order dialysis supplies. I would like to crochet, and I would like to clean. Although I cleaned quite a bit today, and I'm pretty tired. So let me see how my body is doing tomorrow. I was able to walk with Charity Miles. I uninstalled the app and reinstalled it, and I was able to record 2 or 3 times today. Basically, I just stuck it in my pocket, and while I was running around cleaning and prepping and serving today, food in and out of the house, I kept it in my pocket, and I gained some miles that way. I didn't have any concentrated walks. So we have a team of 18, and collectively we have moved 1,098 miles. Great job, everyone. If you're interested in joining our team, this is the information right here, our team name, and there's also a link down below in the description box. Everyone is welcome. Thank you so much. All right. So if you're just here for story time, that was a long one, but thank you for joining. And let's get into daily symptoms and statistics. Oh, we'll see you tomorrow. Daily symptoms and statistics. Nausea, no. Totally managed, no problems. Mouth pain, no. Teeth pain, no. Throat pain, no. Ugh, I forgot to look up the weight. The weight went up a smidgen again. I'm going to say it was like X6.1 or 2. But I'll look it up and put it on the screen for you. My in was 88 ounces yesterday, 2.6 liters, and my out was 2.8 liters, I believe. But again, I'll check that and put that on the screen as well. Boy, I did not do my homework today. Let me keep going. My sleep was 6 hours and 49 minutes. My movement yesterday was 6,600 steps. My vitals were fine. Neuropathy is it's not too bad on the tips of my fingers. You know what? This side note, and I said I was doing lightning round, and now I'm jabbering, sorry. I read that you can have neuropathy, like, in your body. Like, that could affect your GI tract and stuff. There's neuropathy, like, in the tract and different things. I don't know if that's true. I'm going to have to do a little more research, but I was like, oh, no. But in any case, the fingers, not too bad. A little bit on the tips, but nothing traveling or anything. Hair loss, status quo, and I didn't drop anything today. Hair loss. Sorry, I didn't show you. Hair loss, status quo. Nose, skin, status quo. Nose clots, yes. Night sweats a bit. Headache, no. Fatigue. I'll say a bit, but I'm not sure. I did pretty well, so let's see what happens tomorrow. Red skin is no, and chemo brain is no. Thank you so much for sticking with me today. Thank you all the time for your love and support. I really appreciate it. We will see you tomorrow. Love you. Remember, every day is a gift. Live it.